Good morning, gamers. I'm just moments away from being called Kitten by a 32-year-old investment banker named Denis. You won't see moments like these in a Quest 3 commercial, which is both an intentional decision by Meta and a terrible marketing mistake. Truthfully, there are a lot of things you haven't been told about virtual reality, so today I'd like to say the quiet parts loudly. Denis, go ahead. Trying to make a video about virtual reality is like trying to describe colors to a blind person. You might get the feeling right, you might have examples of things that are that color, and there are similar senses that you can engage to get close, but for someone to actually understand what you mean, they have to use a VR headset. Every single time that I've had the opportunity to put a friend through the first steps experience in VR, the response is universally not apathy. And I think that's pretty neat. The issue with this is that until you've put that headset on, your understanding of virtual reality is videos of people jumping into TVs, punching their children, and that one Today Show interview where Mark Zuckerberg spawned in with a pair of fat knockers.
Check this out.
Wow.
So that's pretty neat.
I've made 49 videos where I attempt to tell you the story of my experience with VR. And the greatest challenge I face every single time is how do I transform this 3D experience into a 2D video? And once I've done that, how do I get my in-laws to respect me? Most gamers can be forgiven if they watch a couple videos about virtual reality titles and say, I'm good, man. I'll probably just go play Minecraft. Because translating the experience into a wholly different medium makes the future of gaming look dated. Let me put it this way. Imagine you're trying to get your friend into video games. They're a captive audience, and you've promised them that after an hour of playing, they'll understand why gaming is the future. You then boot up your Xbox 360 and demo a game released 17 years ago. That was a terrible example. Imagine you're trying to get your friend into video games, you sit them down at this, and say, have at it. I don't even know what I'm looking at. And I've got 1,000 hours in that game. My point is, I don't think you should draw any conclusions until you've at least put a recently made headset on, because YouTube videos do a great job of conveying what normal gaming feels like because it's a one-to-one comparison. The same cannot be said about VR. The experience is fundamentally different from a traditional flat-screen game, and that comes with some baggage. So let's talk about the thing. You know, that thing. Did your parents not let you play certain video games they deemed violent? Did they think those video games would encourage you to be a violent person? What was their response to the March 2003 coalition-led bombing of Baghdad? 2 years ago, I made a video titled, "Never mind, video games cause violence." I then proceeded to spend 8 minutes and 29 seconds saying the complete opposite. I do this because I'm crazy, and it makes for a convenient segue. Violence feels different in virtual reality. I think anyone who's played it will say the same thing. Once you put that toaster on your head, you enter your own strange version of the Stanford prison experiment. I'm sorry. While I carefully maintain a machismo online persona, in real life I'm a bookish little lad who likes berries and cream. Though I stutter on my words, frequently drop all my papers, and look like a bow-legged deer when I pick them up. Once you get that headset on me, it's a bad day to be someone who hasn't been hit with a stick. The reason that I'm saying this is because I grew up playing games like Skyrim and Call of Duty, where violence is both a plot device and a game mechanic. When it's used well, it creates tension or engaging gameplay. When it's used poorly, I don't really give a shit. It's just tasteless entertainment. We can call it out for what it is. You can watch 1,001 YouTube essays about the fallacies surrounding violence in media and its effect on viewers, and that's not the point that I'm trying to express. It feels different when you have to physically slash someone's neck or bludgeon them with a hammer. You perform these same actions ad nauseum in Bethesda games like Skyrim, and it doesn't even register as violence. Instead, we write essays about how it's a clunky combat system. But let me tell you, when you have to hold someone's head under the water while they struggle for life, it feels different. I'm not going to try and draw any conclusions from that, and I certainly don't think that people who play violent VR titles will become violent people. Supporting evidence. Ever since I began posting videos, I've had my Discord link in the description. It's become a place for VR enthusiasts and gamers to talk about their interests, and while I closely monitor their behavior, I don't see the telltale signs of violent individuals. but I do see that they love collecting Legos. Anyway, I desperately need them, not only because it's way more fun to play VR multiplayer in private lobbies, but because it occasionally borders on impossible to play VR without a full staff of tech support. Virtual reality is a painfully unrefined user experience. Important background for this, I've only ever used a Quest 2 and Quest 3, and I exclusively use them for PC VR. While the actual interfaces vary with the headset you use, I'm doubtful any of them are so good that they escape the gravity of this point. If you're gonna try and play a game in VR, you'll frequently run into an issue that I like to describe as, oops, you tried to play a game in VR. Sometimes it doesn't run. Sometimes it runs horribly. Sometimes your PC doesn't recognize you have a headset plugged in. And a lot of the time you have a really cool experience that makes troubleshooting worth it. I love virtual reality, and I don't want the critical tone of this video to distract you from the fact that it's really cool. But when it crashes ugly. It doesn't just... You get a stuttery, disorienting mess that oftentimes can't be replicated if you try and make the same error occur twice. I have bachelor's degrees in computer and electrical engineering and a master's degree in lying on YouTube. Despite all of that, I've still found myself with errors so bad that I've had to go to Meta's tech support, who are surprisingly inclined to say, "We understand your issue. You should..." Can't say that on YouTube, but I can say it on Patreon. Thank you to the Bloody Sniper, Solved, Dax78, and Russell935 for helping me survive the winter, as well as all of these kind people. Link in the description. As I was saying, when things go wrong in VR... Actually, wait, real quick, this is my 50th video on YouTube, and it's pretty different from the other ones. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments. I will be responding to all of them. All right, enough of that. When things go wrong in VR, you can't just hit Alt F4. It crashes with you still inside it. Every little bit of lag isn't just notable, it's nauseating. As much as I'd love to keep ranting about user interfaces and experience, the truth is the amount of things that VR titles have to get correct is an order of magnitude greater than flat screen gaming. If something exists in a game, it must exist correctly. Yoink. If it doesn't, your immersion is immediately broken. I don't think that got him. I don't think this is an easy point to show, so let's just tell. You just got back from your 9-to-5 job. You only have to maintain this schedule for 40 more years, but you should probably find something to do in your off time anyway. You could either enjoy a couple hours of immersive gameplay punctuated by the occasional plastic chair you can neither move nor climb over because it weighs 1,000 tons, or ketamine. All right, chat, that one's down the hatch. Let's see where tonight takes it. Games have to stray away from putting a lot of things in their world, because if there's a door and I can't interact with it, it doesn't feel like I'm looking at a door. It feels like I'm looking at a wall with the door painted on it. You've experienced this same feeling outside of VR. It happens whenever you see a clearly traversable path that's blocked by like a single barrel that's tipped over. Except in VR, that concept applies to every object in the game. If there's a brick and there's a window, and I can't throw the brick through the window, you suddenly become very cognizant of the fact that you're alone in your room wearing a toaster. As a result of this, there are maybe 10 strong VR titles. And if you don't like shooting things, I hope you like Beat Saber. I'm oversimplifying a bit here, but I think you get what I mean when I say that a game has to either stick to one really good game mechanic or be a... oh shit. Or be a sandbox. The amount of things that need to be done well for a VR game to have even a medium-sized scope would require the full resources of a AAA studio, and they're busy making Call of Duty. Again. But there's a flip side to this. The few experiences that currently exist are fantastic. Some have more issues than others, but when they stay in their lanes and focus on their core mechanic, they're a really fun experience that are more than the sum of their parts. The ones that don't do this are massively janky, and that's not always an insult. The jankiness is fun to explore with friends, and when the lone indie developer that made the game prices it at like $20, it doesn't really feel like you're being ripped off. It actually feels like those early days on the internet when things were just really messy, but they had so much heart to them. And for better or worse, you know it's going somewhere. Unfortunately, sometimes it is for a lot worse. But maybe we'll talk about that in the next report. For 32-year-old men everywhere, I'm not Bricky. Thanks for watching.